Who's next? Who's next?
Johnson survived!
That's it!
He cannot!
I love this. You cannot break me, I promise you. Drop me all you want. You better put me to sleep, or else I'm coming for your head, coming for your leg, coming for your body. Who is next?
Fox Sports Act.
Big right from Gaethje, and down goes Vic!
I am the least fake person in this sport. I take everything personal. I took everything he said personal. And I'm glad I put him to sleep.
Taking some leg damage, these boys.
Gaethje with some.
Oh, got him with a overhead right. It's over.
On to the next one, my friend. I would not recommend this sport to my enemy, but I was born and I was bred and I was raised to do this. And I will do it till the wheels fall.
Oh, right from Gaethje. Cerrone takes it in.
Never let myself down. Max effort's all I expect from myself. With that, I will be satisfied no matter what.
Hey, what's going on, fight fans, and welcome to our YouTube channel. Hope you're doing well. In today's video, we will be talking about one of the elite fighters of the lightweight division of the UFC. A highlight, Justin Gaethje. Ever since making his UFC debut, Gaethje has become one of those fighters who you just can't take your eyes off whenever he is in a fight. The former interim lightweight champion always brings violence inside the octagon with his cutthroat style of fighting. But what were the key moments in Gaethje's rise to the top in the UFC, and what kind of lifestyle does he live outside the octagon? So without wasting any time, let's get straight to the countdown.
Number 7. Career highlights.
Before joining MMA, Justin Gaethje was an NCAA All-American wrestler. He started wrestling at the age of 4 and acquired a good reputation in collegiate wrestling. Following his wrestling credentials, he would then switch to amateur MMA, where he would go undefeated in his first 7 fights. Having amassed a 7-0 MMA record by this time, Gaethje received an offer to compete in the WSOF Fighting Championship. He joined WSOF in 2013 and made a dominant start to his pro MMA career by defeating JZ Cavalcante via a doctor stoppage in the first round. Gaethje would go on to have a perfect and spotless winning streak at the promotion, becoming the WSOF lightweight champion and going on to defend the title 5 times. You would think that because of his wrestling, Gaethje achieved such early success in his career, but rather it was his striking that made him one of the hottest prospects of MMA at the time. And to add to that, he had amassed an unbeaten MMA record of 17 wins and 0 losses, which increased his allure.
He said he wanted to be a champion. I looked him in his eye and said, "Do you believe you can be a champion?" He said yes. There was no stutter to that.
Having been on the watch list of the UFC for some time, he signed for them in 2017. He would make his debut at the UFC Tough Redemption finale against experienced lightweight contender Michael Johnson. Gaethje would win in his first fight by finishing Johnson in the second round of a hugely entertaining fight. In fact, Gaethje's debut is regarded as one of the best UFC debuts of all time, as he warmed up to the fans instantly through his violent and cutthroat style of fighting. As compared to the WSOF, it wouldn't turn out to be smooth sailing for Gaethje in the UFC, as he would suffer back-to-back defeats against the likes of Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. But that didn't deter Gaethje one bit, as he is the sort of fighter who just wants to test himself against the best and the one who takes the hit without any excuses along the way. Gaethje would then rack up some wins against top contenders such as Edson Barboza and Donald Cerrone to break into the top 10 of the division. All of those victories came by way of finishes and would make him one of the most entertaining fighters to watch. Ultimately, he would defeat Tony Ferguson at UFC 249 to become the interim lightweight champion of the UFC and thus set up a clash for the undisputed title. As many know, he would end up coming short for the title, which was against the GOAT Khabib. Regardless, his amazing and dynamite power of striking made him a lethal opponent for any fighter in the lightweight division. He is currently ranked number 2 in the lightweight rankings and is surely going to contend for the title again in the future.
Number 6. Salary.
Being one of the UFC's top fighters, Gaethje earns a good paycheck for his performances inside the octagon. He drew a salary of $302,000 in his UFC debut against Michael Johnson in 2018, which at the time was a huge payout for a debutant. The reason for that figure might be the incredible resume that Gaethje arrived with in the UFC, having been undefeated at that point in his MMA career and being the former WSOF champion. His popularity and tremendous duels inside the octagon raised his salary considerably, also making him the recipient of numerous Fight of the Night and performance bonuses. Gaethje made a career high of $480,000 for his interim title win against Tony Ferguson at UFC 249. In his last fight against the former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov at UFC 254, Gaethje earned $440,000, which was surprisingly less than what he made for the Ferguson fight. But with Gaethje still having a lot more years ahead of him in the fight game, his figures are expected to rise in the future. Also, being one of the greatest lightweights of this era strengthens his case.
Number 5. Sponsorships.
Gaethje's success and his kill or be killed approach inside the octagon has helped him land a good deal of sponsors in his career as of now. He is sponsored by ONX Sports, the MMA and gym equipment gear company. Gaethje also has a company of his own named The Violent One, which deals in casual apparels, caps, and boxing gloves. To round it up, he very recently signed a sponsorship deal with a local dealer of Audi, that is Audi Denver. Part of being a top performer is you always have to be on top of your game, and Gaethje likes to associate himself with brands that help him do that. Gains in Bulk is a nutrition company based out of his hometown in Colorado that has been sponsoring Gaethje for a while now, and you can see him advertising their products on various platforms. It won't be long until we see Gaethje increase the number of sponsors as well, as the highlight adds more incredible moments to his burgeoning MMA career.
Number 4. Contributions of his coach.
Justin Gaethje possesses the natural talent of being one of the hardest hitters of the sport, but the true MMA fans would know that the improved and measured striking that Gaethje has shown lately, especially in his last 4 fights, is only because of the input of his coach Trevor Wittman in his game.
Okay? Also, don't forget to touch. Low kick.
Early on in his UFC career, Gaethje used to be a fighter who usually took 2 to 3 shots until he would unleash his shots at his opponent. Just like his fight against Johnson that served him well, although he had to take a lot of damage for that second round victory over him. That approach came back to haunt him in his fight against Eddie Alvarez, where Gaethje lost out in the final round as a result of taking too much unnecessary damage due to his style of fighting. Wittman, being the tactical genius, saw this flaw and tried to work around it without negating Gaethje's strengths, which was striking. That intervention led to Gaethje becoming an all-round better fighter than before. They both have a good rapport, and Wittman is a guy who only oversees coaching duties for a few fighters who he has a lot of trust and belief in. He is also a big admirer of Gaethje's way of living and the buy-in that he provides in Wittman's vision of him becoming an all-round MMA fighter. They are one of the favorite player-coach pairs of the UFC.
Number 3. The Gaethje brothers.
Justin has a twin brother by the name of Marcus, and the two are extremely close to each other. They both used to play on the same football team during their high school days, where Justin used to be the quarterback and Marcus was a linebacker.
He was the quarterback?
He was the quarterback, yeah.
And you played?
Tight end.
Was that like a brotherly connection?
We were the middle of the rushing force on defense. So he was a middle linebacker. I was a strong safety. Yep. So people would
that Justin hit hard on the football field.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. We both hit hard. Yeah.
And did you and
we like playing defense together more than offense. Defense was where it was at.
In fact, they were also on the same baseball team, showing their incredible togetherness. According to Marcus, before being an MMA fighter, Justin had hopes of being in the NFL. But one day when he and Justin were training for wrestling, one of the wrestling coaches introduced him to the likes of George St. Pierre and Clay Guida, and after a session with them, he had decided he would like to pursue a career in MMA. Another testament to their brotherly love is that Justin is always accompanied by Marcus in his corner during fights, and turns out it is Marcus who gets the jitters rather than Justin before a fight. Marcus's amazement comes with the fact that Justin is very cool and carefree for a sport which may be life-threatening and injurious, but that can be largely attributed to Justin's fearlessness and his love for violence inside the octagon. Marcus takes a lot of pride in his brother's accomplishments as an MMA fighter and says that hailing from their small town of Safford, he has put them somewhat on the map by way of his exploits in the UFC. It's safe to say, in Justin's life, Marcus is the pillar of strength.
Number 2. Cars.
Gaethje owns a variety of cool cars and has recently added the suave 2020 Audi e-tron luxury hybrid SUV to his garage. The car is built with spacious interiors and cost around $78,000. Among Gaethje's old car collections are the 2018 Nissan Titan truck, which is priced at $48,000, and the 2018 Subaru GRX STI, costing approximately $28,000. There might be doubts whether Gaethje uses the Subaru anymore, as it was the victim of a hailstorm, which had smashed the glass of the car, of which Gaethje had shared a picture of. The man known to make car crashes inside the octagon surely didn't see that one coming. Before we come to the last segment of the video, it's time for the fun fact.
Fun fact.
Being an All-American wrestler, Gaethje has been seen not making use of his wrestling in fights. According to Gaethje, the reason for his reluctance to use his wrestling is his cardio doesn't hold up well in clinch positions for a 5-round fight. That's rare for a fighter to be this honest, but Gaethje is never the one to mince his words and says it like it is. Now back to the countdown.
Number 1. He came up from humble beginnings.
Gaethje grew up in Safford with his family. His father was a mine worker and worked there for 35 years. At the age of 18, Gaethje too landed his first job as a mine worker and dedicated himself to the copper mining in Arizona. He worked there 7 days a week, putting in 12 hours of work each day. He rarely used to take a day off, and it is rumored he only took one after the first 3 months due to a fever. In many of his interviews, Gaethje looks back at those days with pride.
It was hard work. I worked every day, 12 hours a day, hours riding back and forth.
Coming from a proper working-class family, toughness was built in him right from a very young age. He would then leave his job to pursue his degree in human services, to which many of his friends told him that he wouldn't be able to last long in college and he would be back to mining. But little did they know, Gaethje would go on to be a well-known MMA fighter within the UFC. Even after all his success, Gaethje's sole aim is to make enough so that his mother can retire from her job permanently, and that's what endears him to the fans even more. And finally, after looking at Justin Gaethje's career, his earnings, and his way of living, his net worth stands at a cool $4 million. And with so many potential fights to look forward to, it won't be long until Gaethje becomes a big name in the MMA world. Well, alright, we have come to the end of our video for today, but before leaving, we would like to know, is Justin Gaethje the most entertaining fighter in the lightweight division at the moment? And what are your views on Justin's approach towards his fight and life in general? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.